All right, looks like we're diving deep into the world of wealth creation today, huh? We've got this stack of excerpts from Becker's The 10 Pillars of Wealth. Think we can unlock the secrets of the super rich?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Becker really lays it all out there, especially when it comes to, that classic get rich slow advice.
Right, right. Most financial gurus are all about patience and slow, steady growth. What's Becker's take?
He pretty much throws that out the window. He compares building wealth to, mastering a video game,
Okay.
You wouldn't expect to beat a really hard game on your first try.
No, definitely not.
There's a learning curve. You're going to fail a bunch of times, but if you keep going, you've got that right mindset, you can, level up.
I like that, yeah. So many people treat wealth like it's this far off, impossible dream, but a video game that feels a lot more achievable.
Totally.
Like you're in control, learning the rules, figuring out the shortcuts.
Exactly, yeah. And Becker doesn't just talk about it, he actually lived it. He left the Air Force with only $6,000 to his name.
Wow.
Talk about a high-stakes gamble. It kind of forced him to figure things out fast, to hustle, take risks. And he says he learned way more in those intense early years than he ever could have playing it safe.
That's a pretty powerful story.
Yeah.
Makes me think of those entrepreneurs who launch their businesses while they still have a 9 to 5,
Right.
It's like they're playing on hard mode.
Yeah.
But that intensity, it can lead to faster breakthroughs.
Absolutely. And Becker's second pillar kind of builds on this whole idea of taking control. It's about separating your time from money.
Yeah.
He says true wealth comes from creating systems that generate income even when you're not working.
Yeah, because even if you're the most efficient person on the planet, you're still limited by the number of hours in the day, right?
Totally. He uses this example of a website that automatically schedules client appointments for you. So instead of spending all day playing phone tag, you can actually free up your time to focus on things that actually matter.
Right.
Or imagine running ads that actually bring clients to you instead of the other way around.
Okay.
It's all about working smarter, not just harder.
So leveraging technology, automation, all that to basically have a business that works for you, even while you sleep.
Exactly.
Line me up.
And that ties into the third pillar, accepting the need to be exceptional.
Okay.
He uses this great analogy about a NASCAR driver,
Okay.
who has to make split-second decisions to win the race. There's no room for hesitation or self-doubt in that situation.
No.
It's if you want to achieve those crazy results, you got to be willing to make moves that, most people wouldn't even think about.
So it's not just about blind ambition, right?
Right.
It's about actually honing your skills, developing expertise, and constantly trying to get better.
100%. He challenges us to be better than 99% of the people on the planet when it comes to making money. It's about that confidence to take calculated risks and push yourself beyond what you think you're capable of.
Okay, I like that. So we've ditched the limiting beliefs. We're taking risks. What's next?
The fourth pillar is about taking full responsibility, even when things go wrong.
Yeah.
He says everything is 100% your fault.
Really? Everything?
Yeah.
Even if it's someone else's mistake?
Yeah, it sounds harsh, I know. But he's not saying you should blindly accept blame or let other people off the hook.
Okay.
He's saying that by owning every outcome, you gain this greater sense of control,
Okay.
Instead of playing the blame game, you're actually analyzing what you could have done differently to prevent that whole situation in the first place.
So it's about shifting from a victim mentality to a more empowered mindset, right?
Yeah.
So instead of, why is this happening to me? It's, what can I learn from this?
Exactly. He gives this example about an employee who messed up some client orders. And instead of just firing the employee and moving on, Becker realized that he could have implemented, better systems from the beginning to stop it from happening. It's about learning from those mistakes and constantly improving your process.
I feel like that mindset shift could be applied to so many areas of life, not just business.
Oh, absolutely. And this leads us to the fifth pillar, which is all about adopting an abundance mindset.
Okay, abundance, I like the sound of that. Tell me more.
He uses his experience with, get this, a dating coaching business to illustrate this point.
The dating coach. What's that got to do with wealth?
So he noticed that the men who approach dating with a scarcity mindset, there are only a limited number of good women out there.
Oh, yeah.
They tend to be more desperate, insecure, all of that.
Yeah.
But the guys who have an abundance mindset, they believe there are plenty of great women out there.
Yeah.
They just radiate confidence, they're authentic, all that.
They're not afraid to lose one opportunity because they believe there will be more.
Exactly. And Becker applies that same idea to wealth creation. If you believe money is scarce, hard to come by, you'll constantly be chasing scraps. But if you can, embrace abundance, you start seeing opportunities everywhere.
So it's that belief that there's enough to go around. You can create wealth without, taking it from someone else.
Exactly. And that shift, it's really empowering.
Okay, so we've gotten rid of limiting beliefs, embraced responsibility, tapped into abundance. What's next?
The sixth pillar is about letting go of what ifs and focusing on what is.
Ooh, that's a big one. I think we've all been paralyzed by what ifs. What if I fail? What if I make the wrong decision?
Yeah. Becker actually tells a story about two guys who work at a car dealership.
Yeah.
One guy is, constantly worrying about everything that could go wrong.
Yeah.
While the other is just focused on solving problems as they come up, taking action, even when things aren't perfect.
Classic overthinker versus the doer, right? One gets stuck in analysis paralysis, and the other's out there learning from real-world experience.
And Becker argues that action, even imperfect action, is the key to making progress. He wants us to reframe those what-ifs into, motivating forces.
How do you do that?
He says to compare the potential pain of failing, with the guaranteed pain of staying stuck where you are. Which one feels worse?
That's a good point. You're either going to be uncomfortable taking a risk and maybe failing, or uncomfortable staying stagnant and never reaching your full potential. Might as well choose the path that leads to growth, even if it's a little bumpy.
100%. And that brings us to the seventh pillar, which is all about setting clear goals.
Okay, goal setting 101. Seems pretty straightforward. What's Becker's take on it?
He's all about being specific. It's not enough to just say, I want to be rich, You got to define exactly what that looks like for you. What kind of house do you want to live in? What car do you want to drive? How do you want to spend your time?
So it's like creating a vision board, but with a financial plan attached to it.
Exactly.
Wow.
He even gives you the step-by-step exercise in the book.
Okay.
You start by defining your dream lifestyle. Then you figure out exactly how much income you need to actually support that lifestyle.
Okay.
And then you identify, the business goals that will generate that income.
It's like reverse engineering your dream life.
Right.
Figure out where you want to be, then map out the steps to get there.
Exactly. And he emphasizes the importance of breaking down those big, daunting goals into smaller, more manageable steps. Each step becomes a mini victory that keeps you motivated and moving forward.
Okay, this is starting to sound a lot like that video game quest we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You complete the mini missions, you collect the rewards, level up to the next challenge.
Exactly. And that leads us perfectly into the eighth pillar, which is all about focusing solely on what gets you paid.
Wait, isn't that the whole point of having a job? To get paid.
Yeah, of course. But Becker says most people waste so much time and energy on things that don't actually contribute to their income. He uses this really interesting thought experiment. Imagine getting paid $1,000 for every mile you walk or run.
Okay, I'm listening.
So suddenly all those things that you thought were important, like cooking healthy meals, organizing your closet, scrolling through social media, all become distractions from your, money-making mission.
Wow, that really puts things into perspective. If you're not getting paid for it, is it really worth your time?
He challenges us to really evaluate how we're spending our time and cut out anything that's not directly moving the needle,
Yeah.
Even really successful entrepreneurs fall into the trap of busyness, mistaking all that activity for actual productivity.
Yeah, it's not just about working hard. It's about working smart and focusing on those high-impact activities that give you the biggest return.
Exactly. And he talks about how billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg and Warren Buffett, they maximize their ROI, right?
Right.
They don't get bogged down in those day-to-day tasks. They build teams, they create systems so they can leverage their time and expertise for maximum impact.
Working on your business, not just in your business.
Exactly. Now, ready for a mind-blowing revelation?
Nothing clear.
The ninth pillar is understanding that the true secret to wealth is understanding people.
Okay. I am intrigued. Tell me more.
Becker breaks it down really simply. Every dollar you earn comes from another person's bank account.
Okay. I mean, that's so obvious, but I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, it kind of reframes the whole game, right? It's not about magically manifesting money. It's about providing value and convincing other people to exchange their hard-earned cash for what you're offering.
So it's not enough to have a great product or service, right?
Right.
You have to understand your audience, their needs, what they want, and then craft your message so that it resonates with them.
Exactly. He encourages us to learn about selling, leading, understanding, like human psychology. These are the skills that separate those average earners from the high rollers.
So master manipulator is not on the list, but understanding human behavior definitely is.
Absolutely. And that leads perfectly into the 10th pillar, which is about surrounding yourself with the right people.
Okay, I'm all about building that support network. What's Becker's take on this one?
He uses a kind of unexpected example to illustrate his point, World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft. Like the fantasy game?
Yeah, with the orcs and elves and all that.
Okay.
He talks about how being part of a guild, a group of players all going for the same goal,
Right.
it can drastically increase your motivation and how fast you actually progress, right? You're surrounded by people who want the same things you do, and it pushes you to level up.
Yeah, I can definitely see the parallels to the entrepreneurial world.
Right.
When you're around those ambitious, driven people, it's contagious. Their energy rubs off on you. Their success becomes the benchmark for your own aspirations.
100%. He also emphasizes finding mentors who are slightly ahead of you on the journey.
Right, because they can offer more relatable guidance.
Yeah.
Actionable advice. It's like having a trail guide who recently walked the same path you're on.
Exactly. They've been in your shoes, so they understand the challenges. They can offer solutions that, someone who's miles ahead might not even remember anymore.
Okay, so we found our tribe. We've got our mentor. Feeling pretty unstoppable at this point. What's the final piece of this puzzle?
This might be the most important. The 11th pillar is deciding to become wealthy.
Wait, so it's not enough to just want it? I have to, actually decide.
Becker says that becoming wealthy starts with this firm, unwavering decision.
Okay.
It's like flipping a switch in your mind.
Right.
No more maybe someday or I'll try my best. It's I am going to achieve financial freedom no matter what.
It's about committing to the journey, even when it gets tough.
Yeah, that's the power of a decision, right? It changes your whole perspective. It empowers you to take the actions you need to take.
Okay, so we've been given the blueprint, the tools, the mindset. Now it's up to us to go out there and, build the life of our dreams.
Exactly. Becker says that anyone can achieve financial success if they have the right mindset and they're willing to put in the work. But before we send you off to, conquer the world of wealth creation, Becker has one more important lesson, a breakdown of the different types of businesses and how to actually use them to build lasting wealth. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
All right, so we're back. Last time we really got into Becker's 11 pillars of wealth, right? Those powerful mindsets that set you up for success. But how do we actually put these principles into action? What kind of businesses are we building here?
That's where things get really interesting. Becker actually breaks down businesses into 3 main categories.
Okay.
Cash flow, high investment scalable, and long-term investment.
Okay, so cash flow, high investment scalable, long-term investment. Can we break down these business types a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. Imagine a tree, right? Cash flow businesses are like the trunk. Strong, steady, providing that consistent nourishment. They don't need as much investment up front, but they really rely on your personal time and effort. So think freelancers, consultants, those service-based businesses where you're kind of trading hours for dollars.
Okay, so it's like planting a seed that sprouts quickly. You get fruit, but you have to constantly tend to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. The good news is that these cash flow businesses, they can be super profitable, sometimes with profit margins as high as 90%.
Wow.
But the downside is that they're not that easy to scale or sell,
Right.
because they're so closely tied to you. And there are only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what about those high investment scalable businesses? What kind of tree are we picturing there?
So those are like planting a redwood seed. Might take a little longer to sprout, needs more care up front. But it has the potential to grow into this massive, giant tree, We're talking tech startups, software companies, businesses that can reach a global audience.
So the investment is higher, but the payoff could be huge.
Exactly, yeah. And the key here is that scalability. Once you've built that infrastructure, the product, the systems, your income isn't limited by your personal time anymore.
Right.
You can use teams, technology, automation, to reach millions of people.
It's like that saying, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door.
Totally. And these are the kinds of businesses that get investors excited, right?
Yeah.
They see that potential for those big returns, the chance to create something really disruptive.
Okay, so we've got the reliable fruit tree, we've got the towering redwood. What about long-term investments? What's our metaphor here?
Okay, so those are like a steady stream flowing into a reservoir, right?
Okay.
They're all about passive income and building wealth through things that, go up in value over time. Think real estate, stocks, bonds, that kind of stuff.
Okay, I see the picture. It's that slow, steady drip, drip, drip of water filling up the reservoir. Over time, it becomes this huge source of wealth.
Exactly. And those long-term investment businesses, they might not have the explosive growth of, a tech startup or whatever, but they give you stability, security, and a solid base for that long-term wealth. It's that make your money work for you kind of strategy.
Okay, I like it. So we've got our three types of trees, but Becker doesn't see them as mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah, no.
He's more about a holistic approach.
Yeah, he's all about that strategic diversification.
Yeah.
He says you should start with cash flow business because, you can make money quickly, minimal risk, and then use that to invest in those other types later on.
Okay.
It's like starting with that fruit tree, right? It gives you what you need to go plant those redwood seeds and set up those steady streams.
I like that visual. So you're not just making money, you're gaining experience, getting that confidence to try bigger things.
Yeah. And once you have that steady income coming in, you can start exploring those high investment scalable and those long-term investment opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you use those profits to fund your dream tech startup, or you start building a real estate portfolio, all that.
It's like leveling up in the game of wealth, right? You start with a solid foundation, then you gradually branch out, diversify as you go.
Exactly. Now, let's dig a little deeper into those cash flow businesses. Becker has some really good practical strategies for starting and growing them.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are his top recommendations?
First off, he's a huge fan of affiliate marketing.
Okay.
It's like being a digital matchmaker,
Okay.
You partner with other businesses, promote their stuff, and you get a cut of every sale you make.
So instead of creating your own product, you're leveraging what's already out there.
Yeah, and the best part is that it really doesn't take much to get started. You don't have to make a product, deal with inventory, or handle customer service or any of that. You're basically getting paid to connect buyers and sellers.
Okay, so you're like the ultimate influencer. But instead of just getting free stuff, you're getting paid for every sale.
Right. And there are so many ways to do it. You can use SEO to get people to your website, run ads, build an audience on social media, create, blog posts or videos that review products, all kinds of stuff.
So find a niche that you're interested in, that you're good at, and then figure out how to reach those people.
Exactly. Another one Becker recommends is info marketing.
Okay.
That's where you create and sell information products like online courses, ebooks, things like that.
It does seem like everyone has an online course these days.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason for that.
There is. Those information products are super scalable. You create the content once, and then you can sell over and over again to as many people as you want.
It's like writing a book, right?
Yeah.
You put the work in up front, but then you can sell millions of copies, and you don't have to rewrite it for every single person who buys it.
Exactly. And because they're digital, there's no inventory, no shipping, all those costs that come with traditional retail. Your profit margins can be, like, crazy high.
All right, so what are we waiting for? Let's go create an online course on how to create online courses.
Hold on. While those info products can be really profitable, Becker says they're not some get-rich-quick scheme. You still have to create, really good content, market it right, build that audience who trusts you.
So you can't just, throw a few slides together and expect people to buy it.
Yeah, you got to know what you're talking about, be a good teacher, actually help people.
Okay, good advice. Anything else?
Yeah, the last one he suggests is high-end service businesses.
Okay.
This is where you provide specialized services that are in high demand and, you can charge higher prices for them. Think executive coaching, financial consulting, legal services, stuff like that.
So you're positioning yourself as the expert, right?
Yeah.
Someone who can solve those complex problems and deliver those high-value solutions.
Yeah, and because you're dealing with a more, exclusive type of client, you're not competing just on price. You're selling your expertise, your reputation, what makes you different.
It's like being a high-end tailor, making custom suits for those clients who really value quality.
Exactly. And those service businesses, they can often be scaled by building a team, right? You can use other people's talents to serve more clients without having to do everything yourself.
So you're multiplying your earning potential by creating a system that runs even when you're not there.
Exactly. Now, it's important to remember, starting and growing a cash flow business, it's not always easy. Becker's really open about the fact that there are going to be setbacks, failures, those growing pains along the way. But he says those challenges are all part of the process.
It's like those early levels in a video game, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where you get to make mistakes and learn before you face those really tough bosses.
Totally. And if a cash flow business doesn't work out, you're not losing a ton of money.
Right.
You've gained experience, you've learned, and those lessons will help you later.
Okay, so Becker thinks that most people can create a successful cash flow business if they put in the work and, have the right strategy. But what about those people who are aiming even higher? The ones who want to build those massive empires?
That's where those high investment scalable businesses come in. We'll talk about those in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've talked about those cash flow businesses, those dependable fruit trees that give you that constant income. Now let's get into those redwood giants, those high investment scalable businesses, the ones that could totally change entire industries.
Yeah, these are the ones that really get people excited, entrepreneurs, investors, everybody. They're those moonshot ideas, the game changers, the businesses that could reach millions, even billions of people.
We're talking about like the next Amazon, the next Google, right?
Sure.
Those companies that change how we live, work, interact with the whole world.
Exactly, yeah. And Becker says there are two main paths to building one of these high investment scalable businesses. You can either take your existing cash flow business and transform it into that high investment scalable model, or you can start a totally new one from scratch.
Okay, so let's start with converting a cash flow business.
Yeah.
How do you take that dependable fruit tree and turn it into, this towering redwood?
You got to figure out which parts of your business can be systematized, automated, or leveraged to reach a bigger audience. Like say you have a successful coaching business.
Yeah.
You could turn that into a high investment scalable model by creating online courses, building a membership platform, or developing a software tool that automates parts of your coaching process.
So you're taking your knowledge, your unique methods, and packaging them in a way that can be shared with tons of people, even millions.
Yeah, but Becker says this transition isn't always going to work. Sometimes a cash flow business is too tied to the person providing the service,
Yeah.
It's like trying to capture the magic of a performer in a bottle. You can copy the steps, but you can't get that same energy.
So sometimes you have to let the fruit tree grow while you plant those redwood seeds somewhere else entirely.
Exactly. And that's where starting a separate high investment scalable venture comes in, right? This is where you can think big, those game-changing ideas. And because you have your cash flow business making money, you don't have that same pressure to, make the new one profitable right away.
You've got that breathing room to experiment, try new things, take risks that a regular startup couldn't afford.
And that's really important for high investment scalable businesses, right? Failure is often part of the process. It's about learning from those mistakes, adapting to the market and making your product or service better until you find that winning formula.
It's like those early video game prototypes.
Yeah.
They release a beta version, get feedback,
Yeah.
and then they keep making changes until it's ready for everyone.
Right. And here's the interesting thing Becker says, that these high investment scalable businesses, they don't even have to be making money yet to attract investors or buyers.
Wait, really? It's not just about revenue and profits. What else are investors looking for?
It's all about potential, the growth, how disruptive the business could be. Think of companies like Uber or Airbnb.
Oh, yeah.
They changed whole industries while losing money for years. Investors saw that huge potential and were willing to bet on the future.
So you have to show a really convincing vision, prove that it could change everything, even if you aren't making money yet.
Exactly. And while building a high investment scalable business can be super hard and risky, the rewards can be huge. These are the companies that can make billions, create those global brands, really leave a mark on the world.
Okay, so we've covered those redwood giants. Let's move on to those steady streams, those long-term investment businesses, the ones that build lasting wealth over time.
These are the investments that you make planning to hold on to them for a long time, let them grow, and give you a consistent return. It's like building that financial reservoir we were talking about earlier. Over time, those small amounts of income add up to a lot of wealth.
So what are some of the long-term investment strategies that Becker recommends?
One of the most popular is real estate.
Okay.
Whether you're buying rental properties, fixing up and selling houses, or investing in commercial real estate, owning something tangible that gains value and creates passive income, it's a proven way to build wealth.
It's like owning a piece of the real world, right?
Yeah,
Something concrete, something you can see and touch. It gives you that sense of security.
totally. And Becker points out that real estate is a pretty stable and predictable investment. Yeah, the market will go up and down, but over time, property values usually go up.
So you're not just getting that rental income, you're also benefiting from the property becoming more valuable itself. It's a win-win.
Right. Another popular one is the stock market. Whether you're buying individual stocks, mutual funds, or ETFs, you're basically buying a little piece of ownership in those companies.
It's like becoming a mini partner in those businesses,
Yeah.
sharing in their profits as they grow.
Yeah, and while the stock market can be riskier than real estate, it can also give you bigger returns. It's that higher risk, higher reward situation.
So you have to be okay with a little more uncertainty, but the payoff could be much bigger.
Exactly. And if you want even more diversification and stability, bonds can be a good option. These are basically loans you make to governments or companies, and they pay you a set interest rate over a certain amount of time. It's like you're the bank getting interest on your money.
So it's a more conservative approach, but it provides a consistent and predictable income stream.
Yeah. And lastly, for those who want a truly hands-off approach, precious metals like gold and silver can be good too. These are considered safe haven assets. They tend to hold their value even when things are uncertain, you know?
Right.
They're like a financial safety net, giving you that sense of security.
So you've got your real estate, your stocks, your bonds, your precious metals. It's like building a diversified portfolio that can handle anything.
Becker really emphasizes doing your research, understanding the risks, and talking to a financial advisor before you make any big investment decisions.
It's not about blindly investing in whatever sounds good or is popular at the moment, right? It's about being an informed investor, making decisions that align with your long-term goals.
Yeah, and remember, those long-term investments take patience. You're not going to get rich quick with these. It's about that slow and steady growth, building a solid foundation for you and your family.
This has been an amazing deep dive. We've gone from ditching that old get-rich-slow advice to adopting the mindset of those super successful people. We've learned about different business models and specific ways to build wealth.
Becker's given us this great framework for achieving financial freedom. It's not about luck. It's about making a choice to create the life we want.
It's about taking charge, tackling challenges head-on, and always striving to grow.
So what are you going to do with everything you've learned today?
Are you going to let these ideas just fade away? Or are you going to use them to start your own journey to wealth?
Becker believes that anyone can achieve financial success if they embrace the right mindset and take action.
So what's your next move?